So that was an amazing sequence of events, common side effects, episode 5, continuing off of last episode, which was quite shocking, had a man that just got blown up in front of Francis, as well as Marshall, and they're shook up severely. Now, the sheriff has the gun in his hand, so that means, hey, we're gonna have a talk at our house. And Marshall ends up giving in to him and tells him, hey, I got this magical mushroom that can cure anything and anybody. And then he is forced into giving what is to believe to be the nephew's son. He's so young, and I didn't quite remember the family relation, but not really that important compared to what happens now. So the mushroom is given to this boy, and we get to see as this like severe illness that has some type of like rash effect goes away. And as it's happening, we have Frances doing what is called deceiving. She is recording this entire event happening. She kind of has her phone out of her pocket just a little bit. She's zooming in slowly. That's how we're able to see closer to the effects erasing. After this is where she sends this video to Rick. So, Rick is sort of like this villain as well. He's the corporation villain, one of them, most certainly. Now, after this, we get to the next sort of big thing in this episode. So, Marshall is being spied on, I guess in a sense, Francis as well, but it is Cabano as well as Harrington, and they're just keeping watch. It turns from them being in a truck to them going over to the neighbor's house and asking to work on the antenna on the top of the house because they figured out, hey, this would be a great high view. And it doesn't last that long because, of course, Sheriff comes back. I believe his name is Uncle JJ. He comes back, and this is where he's like, hey, you need to go. We don't like no solicitors. Rusty's just sort of dumb. So they get ran off. But that is not the end. We also had this great epic confrontation. Marshall finds out about this news. Now, I'm skipping a little out of line. I just wanted to get ahead to this. But he ends up confronting both of them. Not literally face to face, but it ends up being their truck. And they're kind of like shook up and thinking, hey, maybe this guy isn't so guilty as what the thoughts were this whole time with them. And it kind of has us question, is he really doing something illegal per se? I don't really think so. Now, something else does happen. So, we have Francis and Marshall trying to figure out how to grow this mushroom. After failure, Marshall cannot figure out what to do. Now, they end up going to the supermarket to get supplies, and this is where we have something else that is quite shocking happen again in this episode. So, double shockers here, and it's kind of insane. We get to see as Francis is like looking around, looking for stuff. This is where we get to see Hildy, and Hildy's questioning her, and she puts two and two together. She knows that Francis has to do with no other than Marshall, so connection is made. Now, something that we never could have guessed is that Francis is the one that solves the situation with the seed. So her idea was, hey, maybe you need to grow it directly into the ground. Maybe you're just too smart, Marshall, which ends up being something true, even though Francis has no knowledge of this. Now, we go on to what I would say is the back thing going on. We have Mr. CEO of this medicine company. He ends up, I'm talking about Rick, by the way. Rick takes this newfound footage that Francis has given him and gives it to his boss. And his boss basically says, hey, it's probably AI, And he's like trying to demote this guy. He wants to get rid of him. They're looking for Marshall. And they're thinking of ways to get rid of him and find him. And we hear something about New York. Now, the New York connection is something important coming up. Now, going back, we finally have this huge moment going down. This is where they're out in the forest, and Francis says, "Hey, why don't you let the tortoise, my bad, tortoise, it's a tortoise, no disrespect." Says, "Take the tortoise and let it lead you to where to go." And we find some more information that we're like, what? So the tortoise just stops all at once after walking sort of far away. And then they go to plant this mushroom. After they plant this mushroom, we thought, hey, this is done. This is done. No, it ends up that it's the feces of the tortoise that actually creates this magic. So that is certainly the big connection, dude. That is how it is solved. This is how the magical mushroom is made. You can plant it anywhere, it seems, just as long as this tortoise uses the bathroom over it. So, no tortoise, no mushroom. That is what the secret recipe is. Sick. And for what I would say is our grand finale, we have what is to be the big news. Next morning, Frances goes out to check on these mushrooms, and she is excited as soon as she sees it. She calls Marshall. Marshall, no shirt, comes running out, and this is where both of them are cheering, excited, happy, running around in circles like two kids. And it's just greatness. It's just greatness. Turns out, successful. We finally have a batch. They can finally grow these mushrooms. And things were looking very bright. So, ends up Francis has his idea, hey, we should take these mushrooms. They end up taking these mushrooms without being hurt or injured or sick. And this is where they have these crazy trips. So, Marshall's trip was pretty normal. It was him giving a mushroom to the car wreck guy. And then Francis is where her self-conscious self kind of shines through. And she gives this mushroom to her mother. Then it goes from her mother to Rick to, of course, Marshall. And as it's going down, you have this alien. The little alien signifies is like some type of trip. And it's taking the hammer and slowly breaking away each person. And it gets to Marshall, and it was about to do it, but at the same time, it didn't know what to do. This is where Frances snaps. She snaps out of the trip, and she wants to tell Marshall something, and she can't. You want to know why she can't? This is where the police pull up. Everything goes down. And Marshall goes out to see what it is. It turns out, though, that New York connection, it's here finally. Apparently there's a bunch of wildfires that were set, the same ones from earlier. And while our man Marshall, he's in custody. He gets cuffed in, he's in the car. As he's about to fully get in, this is where we have a nice moment finally. Francis and Marshall kiss. And yes, we finally get to see a good Francis. I think maybe she'll have a change for heart. And shockingly, her true love is indeed Marshall. So it's finally concluded. And I just wanted to say this episode was amazing. This series is great. 5 episodes. It's better than some animes I've ever watched. Cartoons do rock. Especially a lot of the stuff Adult Swim has been coming out with. So if I rated this today, I'm going to say wonderfully 8.8. Fantastic episode. And question of the day is, how do you feel about the change of heart of Francis? I think it's fantastic. And I need that. I need Francis and Marshall to be together. It just feels so good. So now, after all this, excited to see what goes down whenever Marshall is took to prison. Anyway, guys, hope you stay safe. And until next time, peace out.